channel. I'm so happy that you all stopped by. On today's episode, we'll be making a brownie with 3 layers. The brownie has a little bit of a twist to it. It's the first layer being a brownie. The second layer will have a cookie dough, and the last layer a delicious ganache. The cookie dough is not baked, but don't worry, it's completely safe to eat. I'll walk you through all the steps so that we can make it edible without baking. So let's get started. So guys, before we start, I just wanted you all to do a little bit of preparation. Line 8 by 8 inch pan with parchment paper. Leave a little bit on the top so you are able to pull out your brownie once we are completely done with the full process. I have used the Rama brand of butter in this particular recipe. So let's get started with the brownie. In a bowl, I have 110 grams of dark chocolate. To that, I've added in 110 grams of unsalted butter. It does not matter if the butter is hard or the butter is soft. We are going to put it in the microwave. I will put this in the microwave at an interval of 30 seconds, stirring in each time till we have both the butter and the chocolate melted in, and it's one complete smooth mixture. Once we've melted the butter and the chocolate, we'll just leave that aside and let it cool. So now we're just going to keep the chocolate aside to cool down a bit. It does not really need to become cold. Just room temperature is fine. We'll move on to a large bowl where we've added in 2 eggs at room temperature, and to the same bowl I'll put in 220 grams of caster sugar. We will now beat these two together. You can use your stand mixer if you have one. You'll need your balloon attachment for that, but I've used a regular old hand mixer. I'll keep beating till we have the eggs and the sugar very pale in color and nice and fluffy. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get to the end of this process. So here we go. It's really pale and fluffy. I hope you all can see what I'm talking about. We'll then move on to the next step. Now this looks so delicious. We are now going to add in our melted chocolate and butter and quickly mix it in with a spoon. Before you sift in your dry mixture, add in your vanilla extract. So once that's done, we're now going to add in some dry mixture. Grab yourself a sift. To that I'm going to add 80 grams of all-purpose flour, 30 grams of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of baking powder. Now while making this video, I forgot to add the cocoa powder, but I did add it in just before I could pop it into the oven. So just wanted to mention that. So now we're just going to give this a good stir together. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I put up a new recipe. I try to add recipes twice a week on Mondays and Fridays. And that is it, our brownie batter mix. Doesn't it look delicious? All we have to do now is pop it into the oven. Now you can grab your tin that we prepared earlier and pour in all the batter into it and smooth it out. If you have an offset spatula, you can smooth it out with that, or with just a regular rubber spatula you can smooth out the batter into your tray with that as well. So now it's time to bake. So put your oven on and preheat it at 170 degrees centigrade, and you've got to bake your brownie for 20 to 25 minutes. Now that's the way I like it, but if you want it a little bit more like a cake, then you can probably bake it for about 5 to 7 minutes longer. But if you want it a little bit gooey and soft, then you put it for 20 to 25 minutes. Now once it's out of the oven, you need to let it cool down completely, and we can then move on to making our cookie dough. So now our brownie is baked and cool, and it has that classic crispy top, but it will be fudgy and gooey inside. So now for the cookie dough, there are a couple of things that we cannot use if we are making a cookie dough without baking. So one of those are eggs, and the next thing being flour. Now we would need flour, but in order to be able to eat it without baking, we'll pop it into the oven for just about 5 minutes at 100 degrees centigrade, and that will kill any kind of bacteria in the flour. Just use a baking sheet and spread the flour evenly when you put it into the oven so that it bakes evenly. We're now going to put this very carefully into a bowl. I'm going to try not to spill it all over the table. Now to that, I'm going to add 95 grams of caster sugar or any regular sugar, and to it 45 grams of Demerara sugar. This sugar just gives a very nice crunch to your cookie dough. But if you're not able to find Demerara sugar, then you could just add any light brown sugar to the cookie dough. So now we're going to add in some butter. Make sure your butter is really soft, like I have shown here. This will just make it so much more easier to mix it into the other ingredients, and so that we can form a really smooth cookie dough. If you need to soften it a little bit, then you can probably just pop it into the microwave for a few seconds, and that should help. Now we'll add in half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, as well as 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. If you have yogurt or sour cream, you can use either one of them and instead of the buttermilk as well. Also adding in half a teaspoon of salt. Salt is very important when you're baking anything. So yeah, half a teaspoon of salt goes in here as well. Okay, it might look like it's taking a bit of time to all come together, but keep mixing, it will, and in a few seconds you will have a nice looking cookie dough. Lastly, we need to add in some chocolate chips. I have used 50 grams of milk chocolate, but if you prefer dark chocolate, you can even add dark chocolate to this, and then give it a very good mix so that you have your chocolate and your cookie dough well mixed in together. Okay, so it's now time to spread out your cookie dough onto your brownie. It will take a bit of time to get it evenly spread out. Just be careful that you do not put too much pressure on the baked brownie. So lastly, it's now time to put in our delicious chocolate topping on the cookie dough. So let's get making the ganache. Now I like to use ganache because I think it has the best taste, but if you want to just go ahead with melted chocolate, you can do that as well. Now for the ganache, I have used 100 grams of dark and milk chocolate. I've mixed the two, and 100 grams of double cream. I have chosen to heat the double cream on the stove top. I've just brought it up to simmer where you can see small bubbles on the side like I show you here. Once you get it up to that level, you pour it over your chocolate chips or the pieces of chocolate and just let it stand for a couple of seconds before you mix the two together. So you just mix these two together, the cream and the melted chocolate, and you'll have a lovely smooth ganache which looks absolutely delicious. So now all that we have to do is spread it out over our cookie dough. It's quite thin, so it will spread out pretty much on its own. Now, unfortunately, we just have to let this set. We have to put it into the fridge for at least half an hour, but I would say 1 hour is really good. The chocolate needs to harden and the cookie dough needs to firm up a bit. So let's come back after an hour. Don't worry about putting a brownie into the fridge. It's completely okay. It just helps it get a little bit more chewier. So I let it sit for about an hour and I've taken it out of the baking sheet, and here you go. This is what it looks like. You can clearly see the brownie, the cookie dough and the ganache topping. So let's just cut into this. So here you go, guys. Let's take a bite into this delicious brownie. Oh wow, this is really good. You can actually taste the brownie, the cookie dough and the ganache. Fantastic. You'll have to try this. Give it a shot. Let me know how it goes in the comments, and do not forget to share and subscribe, and look forward to many more delicious recipes. Thank you so much.